Welcome to voter registration training for 2022. This is presented by the League of Women Voters of Asheville-Buncombe County. We're going to be going over the basic rules for voting in North Carolina, and we'll go over the voter registration form and how to actually go about registering other people to vote. At the end of the presentation, we'll show you where to go to get all the details and the links we mention here. So don't worry about getting all the details down as we go along. After you've finished the training and taken a look at the materials, you'll have a chance to take a little quiz to make sure you're ready and to sign up and help us with voter registration events. So let's begin. Who can vote? You must be a U.S. citizen. You must be a resident of the county where you're voting. You must be living at your address for the last 30 days prior to the election. You must be 18 on or before Election Day. If you will be 18 by Election Day, it's okay to vote as a 17-year-old in the primary for that election. You must not be serving a sentence for a felony conviction. This one is in the courts right now as to exactly what the limits are when you're allowed to vote again after serving a sentence for a conviction. So if you have people ask about that, my advice is to check with the Board of Elections because that may be changing. And finally, you must rescind any previous registration in another place. And there's a place on the registration form where you can do that.
Okay, how to vote. Step 1, register to vote at least 25 days before Election Day. So if you remember nothing else from this presentation, please remember 25 days before election. The same time period will come up before the general election in November. But for every rule, there is an exception. And in North Carolina, you can register to vote at early voting only. Don't wait till Election Day, but go to one of the early voting locations and you can register there. Step 2, and how to vote. This is important for everybody, so tell all your friends and neighbors and certainly check yourself. Make sure you go to the Board of Elections website, BOE, you'll see that abbreviated throughout this presentation, and check your registration. You don't need to remember this link, it's on our website, and we've got one link at the end that will take you to all of the links that you need. You will be able to get a sample ballot and find out where your polling place is if you choose to vote on Election Day. So another way to prepare for voting, which I wanted to mention on that slide, is to remember to use the leadsvote411.org site. For the primary, it will be up when early voting starts, and for the general, it'll be up before then too, and you'll be able to find all of the information that you need. So when you put in your information into the voter lookup tool, or if prospective registrant or voter comes up to a table where you're registering voters and you want to check their registration before you register them, put in the first name, last name, and county. Try not to put in too much more information because it will look for that exact information and it may not come up if it's just a little bit off. So when you put all of that information, hit search, and you'll be able to find out if you are an active registered voter. What you see on the screen is actually 2 screens. So at the very top where the cursor is, this will come up first and give you your full name and tell you if you're an active voter or not. On the second screen, this information is everything that you need to vote. You can find your sample ballot. You can find voter details, voter history, if you have absentee ballot requests in, if you choose to vote on Election Day where your polling place is, and all of the jurisdictions where your particular address is and where you are permitted to vote. So for step 3, how to vote, step 1 was register to vote. Step 2 was prepare to vote. And step 3 is show up. We want everybody to show up to vote. And you can do that in 3 ways. You can vote early at any of the early voting sites. You can, anywhere in the county, you can vote on election day, but only at your designated polling place. And you can vote absentee ballot or vote by mail. And there will be more information on these 3 ways later in the presentation.
So how do you register? Be sure that you meet all the requirements that we talked about for voting. The second thing to do is to check your registration online. And an easy way, if you forget all of the other things, is to simply look up voter lookup, and that will help you to get the information. You can get a registration form online or at the Board of Elections and mail it in or drop it off at the Board of Elections, or you can do this online at the DMV website by simply going to the Department of Motor Vehicles website and finding the voter registration tab. You can re-register if your name, address, or party affiliation changes, and you should re-register if any of those change from the last election. What about college students who are residing at their college or university dorm? They may register and vote in the county where they are attending college, or they may register or remain registered at the address where they lived previous to moving away from college. It is up to the student, but they should try to be sure that they rescind the one that they're not using. And what about these 17-year-olds? They can, if you will be 18 by the date of the general election, you can actually register and vote in the election's primary, even though you are not 18 at that point. In addition, to encourage everyone to be an important citizen, 16-year-olds can pre-register to vote and will be able to vote when they turn 18. As we mentioned before, when do you register? In order to vote in a specific election, you must register no later than 25 days before that election, and they'll give you that date on the Board of Election website. If you miss the deadline, you can still register during early voting, but you're going to need to bring some information with you that shows your name and your address. That can be a driver's license, it can be a utility bill, it can be a bank statement. But you must have those to do the registration at early voting. 16 and 17-year-olds can pre-register at any time.
Okay, now we're going to go over the form itself and talk about how to actually help people to register. Who can register voters? Anyone can register people to vote. There is no special certification required. You don't even need to be eligible to vote yourself to register other people. Some people are surprised that there aren't any requirements or certifications in North Carolina, but there aren't. It's anybody can register people to vote. You do have some responsibilities, and here are your obligations when you help people to register. Never try to influence the political party choice. The League of Women Voters, as you know, is a completely nonpartisan organization. We never promote a particular political party or candidate. And when you're registering voters, that's when it is most important to never try to influence the political party choice when they fill in the form. You can complete the form for somebody if they ask you to, but they have to sign it themselves, and you never alter anything that they put down, and you never pre-fill in any of the fields for them. You may not copy or record any personal information from the form. They've gotten a lot more strict about this. You can't copy it, You can't add it to a database. You can't keep track of the personal information in any way. And you must return the forms in a timely manner. Legally, you have to turn the form in before the registration deadline, which, as we said, is 25 days before the election. The Board of Elections recommends getting it in within 5 days. For myself, I make a rule to get them turned into the Board of Elections within 3 days. Well, here is what the registration form looks like. This is the top half of it. That's all that would fit on the screen. The sections marked in red are required. If they're not filled in, the Board of Elections will reject the registration. The two most common reasons for registrations being rejected are people not filling in this top part of the form with the age and citizenship requirements, and also people not signing the form at the bottom. So let's just go through the questions step by step. Number one is your citizenship and age requirements. If the person is not a citizen, then there's no need to go on any further because they're not qualified to vote. Number two is your name as it appears on either your driver's license or your Social Security card, whichever one you use for your ID over here in number three. And then number three, your date of birth and one of these forms of ID. These fields are not in red. They're not actually required, but if you don't fill them in, the Board of Elections is going to be getting back to you to find some form of ID before they'll approve the registration. Number four is your street address, where you physically lay your head at night. That's the verbiage that they use. This is where you physically lay your head at night. Number five is your mailing address in case you get your mail at a post office box, something like that, and it's different from number four. Now here's the bottom of the form. If a person has no physical address, for example, a homeless person, they still have to put a mailing address up above, but it's also necessary for them to describe where they actually live so they can use this section here to draw a little map. They don't have to fill in the rest of these questions about the gender and ethnicity and political party if they don't want to, but if they don't fill in a political party affiliation, they'll automatically be registered as unaffiliated. You may be using an older registration form than this that lists the Constitution and Green parties. It's fine to use the old forms, but you should tell people that they'll be registered as unaffiliated if they choose one of those obsolete parties that's not included on the current form. If you're already registered in another North Carolina county or another state, the Board of Elections uses this information here to cancel your registration at the old place. Sometimes people have trouble remembering all the details, so just tell them to fill in what they remember. And the Board of Elections will use your phone number to contact you if needed for any questions they might have about the registration form. And number 10 here is for the signature and the date. It's another red field. Make sure that people sign and date at the end of the form. When you're registering people to vote, it's your responsibility to check after they've filled out the form, make sure they've filled in all the red fields. And once you're finished and you get a registration, make sure that you urge people to go ahead and follow through and vote.
Absentee ballots for 2022, another term that voters use is mail-in ballots. So someone could come up to voter registration and ask about mail-in ballots. But the official name is absentee ballot. And this is the information for 2022. Any North Carolina registered voter may request, receive, and vote by an absentee ballot. No special circumstance or reason is needed. Step 1, submit the official North Carolina absentee request form, and you can do that via the portal of the North Carolina absentee ballot portal, or you can print and mail it to the Board of Elections, or you can complete it and return it in person to the Board of Elections. State law does not permit voters to fax or email the request form. Step 2, you complete your absentee ballot. Board of Elections will mail your absentee ballot to you with a return envelope. And that envelope is specific, to that ballot that was mailed. 2 witnesses over 18 or 1 notary must be in your presence to observe you marking your ballot. They are not there to observe how you vote. Step 3, place your completed ballot in the return envelope, again, that came with your ballot, and seal the envelope. Then the voter and either 2 witnesses or the notary must sign the back of the envelope. Step 4, mail the absentee ballot, or you can drop it off at the Board of Elections, and you can also drop it off at any early voting site during early voting. If it's hand delivered to the Board of Elections, only the voter or near relative may deliver it, and they must sign a log. The county Board of Elections must track who drops off each absentee ballot. If it's dropped off at an early voting site, it must be delivered to the election official at the check-in station. The absentee ballots must be received by the Board of Elections by Election Day, or if mailed, it must be postmarked by Election Day and received no later than 5 p.m. on the Friday after the election. You can track your ballot with the ballot tracks on the portal. Multi-party assistant teams, referred to as MAT teams, are allowed to drop off completed absentee ballots. Who are MAT teams? They are appointed by the county Board of Elections to assist with mail-in voting for voters living in nursing homes and the like. MAT teams consist of a minimum of 2 people who have different party affiliations. What you see now is the North Carolina absentee ballot request form for 2022. And you can see there on the left that it comes with detailed instructions. Important to repeat is that the absentee ballot itself must be returned in the envelope that came with that ballot. And then the back of the envelope is where the voter and the witness sign. And you will need 1 stamp, 58 cents, or a forever stamp to mail it. What about voter ID to vote in elections of North Carolina? As of now, it is not required in North Carolina. A few years ago, a constitutional amendment was passed to require photo ID, but the law passed to implement the amendment was found to be unconstitutional during a trial by a North Carolina Superior Court. The court's ruling was issued on September 17th, 2021. To date, there have been no updates to the court's decision. So at this point, we don't know when or if voter ID is going to be implemented. And if implemented, what types of ID would be required. So we're just standing by for any updates.
Vote411.org is an online voter guide provided by the League of Women Voters. It's a great source of information about voting and candidates. The League asks candidates to respond to questions that we provide on this website. It also offers them the opportunity to make a statement about their candidacy, add a photo or video, and provide other information about themselves. This website can also be used by voters to find information about their own voting status, where they vote, dates of elections, and other important voting information in their locality. Over 10,000 Buncombe County voters used this site in 2020, the last election it was available to us. It's really a one-stop shopping experience for voters.
Okay, so we've covered some of the basic rules about voting and how you can participate in voter registration drives and help people to register. We really hope that you feel like you've learned what you need to know during this session. It's important when you're representing the League that you give accurate information. Sometimes you'll be asked a question that you're not sure about, and it's perfectly okay to say that you don't know. You can advise the voter to check with the Board of Elections on their issue, or you can try to find the answer yourself on the spot. The important thing is not to guess. This is a special page on our website that has all the dates and deadlines for the upcoming election, along with links that you can use for downloading forms, looking up voter information, tracking ballots, and several websites with all the information you need to do your own research or refresh your memory. So please write this link down. You can also get to this page by going to our website at lwvab.org, clicking on the Voting/Elections tab, and selecting Primary Election 2022. After this primary is over, we'll be replacing that with General Election 2022. And when you're there, you will find a list of important dates and deadlines. There are links to all the election resources we've mentioned, plus more. And if you want to volunteer with our League to register voters, or if you just want to check and see how much information you've retained, there is a little quiz about the material. It's short and simple, and it should be a snap, especially if you do it well, it's all fresh in your mind. And the link to that quiz is going to be on the same page as the links to the election resources. If you have any questions about the material we've covered or for volunteering with the League, you can contact us at this email address, leagueofwomenvoters.ab@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions and help you to sign up. So thank you very much for attending this session. We just want to show you that this presentation was the work of our Voter Services Action Team. There's a list of the members. If you're interested in joining that team, we will be happy to have you. So contact us and let us know about that. I'm going to go back to this final slide with the resources and links, and you can be copying this information, the web link and the email address.